Estamos hoy reunidos con la doctora Laurel Christensen. Es para nosotros un placer poder entrevistarla y poder estar con usted en esta conexión que estamos haciendo desde el headquarters de ReSound en Bloomington hasta Colorado, que es donde se encuentra usted atendiéndonos, y queremos darle las gracias. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for us to meet with you.
Hi, it's more my pleasure to meet with you, actually. It's really nice to be with you.
Usted es una persona que tiene una gran trayectoria y una gran experiencia dentro de la audiología general y más concretamente dentro del grupo GN. Aparte de su presentación, para que los colegas que no la conozcan aún sepan quién es usted, nos gustaría también que nos comentara un poco sobre el desarrollo de la filosofía que tiene la perspectiva audiológica, el desarrollo y la investigación que tiene en su parte, la parte que usted lleva de audiología dentro de la corporación de GN.
So I have been at GN for about 20 years. I had my 20-year anniversary in January. So I've been the Chief Audiology Officer for most of that 20 years. I started out as the head of research for the company, doing basic research. But over the years, I've now become the head of audiology, and I run the global training organization, all of the clinical trial activities for all of our products to come to market. So all of the regulatory affairs that have to do with audiology anyway. So I've been doing this for many years. I even do sales support and work in the field. My background before coming to GN has been pretty diverse. I actually worked for a component manufacturer for a while, doing directional microphone design, even newborn hearing screening. But before that, I was a professor at LSU Medical Center, so Louisiana State University Medical Center in New Orleans. Where Kresge Hearing Research Laboratory was located. So started my years there more than 32 years ago. So have been in the industry for a very long time. So GN has a long-term philosophy that goes back way before I came to GN, and it's really a philosophy about being as natural a hearing experience as we can possibly create. And I think if you look back, probably the most well-known GN development was open hearing aids. And so around 2003, GN ReSound put out the very first open hearing aid. So a hearing aid that your ear canal could be left completely open. So that you had a much more natural sound experience. I mean, obviously, we had to work on feedback control in order to do that. But normal hearing people don't walk around with their ears plugged, and you get a very loud sound of your own voice when that happens. And so, that's probably the best known solution that we have, put on the market. But we have a long history. Even before that, our compression is called a warp compressor, and it's completely designed after how the cochlea works. So it's completely designed after the auditory filter structure of the cochlea. So for example, the same bands or channels that we have in our hearing aids is the same exact as the auditory filter structure of the normal human ear. And I think another one that I would mention is directionality. So we know that hearing in noise continues to be the most difficult challenge that any hearing aid user has. And so we have directional microphones. Every company has directional microphones to help someone hear in noise. But what directionality does is it allows the person to hear in kind of a beam right in front of them, but it doesn't allow them to hear what's around them. And so what we have done over many generations, 7 different generations of directionality, is that we have really good, likely the top hearing in noise experience in the market today, but at the same time, you can hear everything else around you. So our philosophy is just natural hearing, because anyone with normal hearing can hear everything around them, and we want someone with a hearing aid to be able to do the same thing. So that's been our philosophy and will continue to be our philosophy. We always look for those problems that a hearing aid user is still continuing to have and looking for the most organic or natural solutions that we can, that we can apply to those so that we can, always make a better hearing aid every time we come out with a new technology.
No podemos evitar el preguntarle sobre otro tema de los más actuales, lo que en este momento presente se está hablando más, que es el OTC, ¿vale? OTC ha supuesto un cambio radical, una revolución dentro de la audiología en general, y quisiéramos preguntarle cómo ve usted la perspectiva actual de la situación del OTC en el año 2023.
Yeah, so OTC has been a long discussion in the U.S. And now, starting last October, OTC hearing aids now have come onto the market. Lots of new regulations through the Food and Drug Administration, but basically providing mild to moderate hearing loss with the ability, or people who have mild to moderate hearing loss with the ability to go and buy a hearing aid, over the counter. In the United States, there's a big chain of consumer electronics or even electronic stores called Best Buy. And it's a really good example. You could go to the Best Buy website and you could type in OTC and you'll see 29, 30, even 35 different varieties of OTC hearing aids that will come up. And so it's been an interesting journey for the first few months. I think unfortunately, regular consumers in the United States really don't know what to buy. They have so many different choices, and I can tell you that the choices range from something that is not good, that might cost about $200 and doesn't sound good. It's a very distorted sound, up to something that's $2,500 on the same website that might be a little bit better. However, I think that what I'm learning personally as we watch this journey is that most people want help. Most people are just not able to go pick out the right product, configure that product for themselves, maybe take the self-test, for their hearing and get it all programmed up. So I think, from my own opinion, it's a very slow start and I think a complicated start that will ultimately probably calm down into, fewer OTCs on the market that actually work, and probably people wanting to get some professional help to actually fit them and use them in the correct way. At least that's what I'm seeing today.
Otro tema que también está muy de actualidad en este momento es ChatGPT, el Chat GPT. Quisiéramos preguntarle también acerca de cómo ve el impacto en la producción científica de artículos en audiología. ¿Cómo ve usted este asunto? ¿Qué es lo que usted piensa?
Yeah, ChatGPT. I think it is a very hot topic in the U.S. right now. I've done a lot of just kind of playing around with it myself, putting in different things, seeing what kind of papers and information come out of it. Certainly in the audiology field, I've done that. Your particular question has to do with scientific publications, and I guess I would hope people would stay away from ChatGPT for scientific publications because, new cutting edge research should not be on the internet at this point. So it's not something that, an AI can pick up all the data that's out there and actually publish an article. But so I think new research will probably stay away from that, things that, we're working on. I mean, for instance, right now we're working on a lot of new hearing and noise things, and the data would only be with us. And so I would hope that, scientific publications continue to be original publications. That said, I think getting summary information from that is actually, from what I can tell, pretty accurate. Like if you if you put in there, things about hearing aid performance or things that you need, if you're a hearing aid user, what are the things you look for in a hearing aid? I can tell you that those, what I've seen have been pretty accurate in terms of what ChatGPT can put out there. So overall, I think it can be a reference or a resource that people can use, but I would hope it wouldn't be used for any kind of new scientific research in the future.
También queríamos aprovechar su extensa experiencia y sus numerosos artículos ya publicados, doctora Laurel, y preguntarle acerca de su visión global de la audiología, y tiene usted una perspectiva muy amplia. ¿Nos podría hacer un pequeño resumen, un pequeño briefing acerca de cómo ve la audiología en Estados Unidos?
Yeah, the field of audiology in the U.S., has taken a lot of transitions, and again, I said I've been doing this for more than 30 years. When I started in the field, you would get a master's degree to become an audiologist. So that education in the U.S. would be 4 years of college and then 2 years of graduate school. So you're still in college, but it's the very first degree you would get. And that's when you became an audiologist. And then, some years, I was more than 15 years in when we changed the requirements in the United States to getting a doctoral degree. And so to be an audiologist in the United States, you actually had to get your AUD or Doctor of Audiology degree. The requirements there are 4 years of college and 4 years of audiology school. So 8 years in order to be an audiologist. And so we have, really well-trained audiologists, but we don't have enough. And so what you see happening in the United States today is that we have a real serious shortage of audiologists. If you look around and we visit many customers, one of the biggest concerns of our customers today is how they're going to hire people to fit the hearing aids or to do the testing, and we try to we try to connect people and help people find find graduates or find people looking for positions, but there are not enough. And so I think right now, the state of audiology is, really having to, look at audiology assistants, using hearing aid dispensers, using other professionals in order to accomplish all that will need to be done. We continue to have an aging population, really worldwide. You just have many people aging, and in the United States, for sure, we have a severe shortage. I mean, I think it's one of the big issues in audiology today is that the shortage is real, and how are we going to help those people? We already talked about over-the-counter hearing aids and perhaps that meeting the needs of mild to moderate. But that's not most people that come to get a hearing aid today. That's actually not most people that are seen in offices today. It's an entirely different group of people. It's early on. We would call them pre-users in the United States. The OTC market is set up really not to be the people who are coming to your office today. It's the people that we want to catch earlier. And unfortunately, probably the biggest issue in audiology today is the shortage. And what are we going to do about the shortage of audiologists in the States?
Estamos hablando del presente, pero hablemos también del futuro. Desde Europa, nosotros tenemos la sensación de que en los próximos años se va a producir un cambio muy acelerado, unos cambios importantes en la audiología. ¿Cómo ve el futuro en los próximos 4 o 5 años?
Yeah. So where do I see the future of audiology in the next 4 to 5 years? I think, I think worldwide you will continue to see technology improvements. There's no doubt that we talked about ChatGPT, but there are other aspects of artificial intelligence, augmentative intelligence that will ultimately be part of hearing aids, and you'll be able to do more, probably particularly in hearing and noise, where hearing aids will be able to learn voices that you particularly want to listen to. And there are a lot of technology improvements. And of course, worldwide, we will see those kind of technology improvements. But at the same time, I think, the field of audiology, in many ways will continue to be what it is today. I mean, you look at cochlear implants, they continue to grow. More and more people are being implanted. You have, vestibular testing, balance testing, all of the vestibular therapy that goes on that actually also has to do with the ear. I'm very biased to hearing aids, working for a hearing aid company, but the field of audiology, is way broader than hearing aids, and I think that field will just continue to be, extremely important in the population that we have today. But we can all look forward to, I think, even better technology than the technology that we have today.
El Congreso de la Asociación Americana de Audiología, el AAA Congress de 2023, que se va a celebrar en Seattle dentro de muy poco, en esta misma semana, es uno de los eventos más importantes del sector. De hecho, nosotros volamos mañana desde aquí, desde Minneapolis a Seattle, para visitar el Congreso. ¿Cuál piensa usted que van a ser los focos más importantes de atención en este año dentro del Congreso de la AAA, de la AAA Congress, para los americanos, los audiólogos americanos?
I think the focus of AAA is really multiple aspects. It's always a place where audiologists come together to look at the latest research. I think one of my very favorite talks that happens every year at AAA is a talk called it's a review of research in amplification, and it's just a wonderful session where three well-known audiologists review all of the research in the past year on hearing aids, and then they have a session basically saying, this is what you need to know. If you haven't been able to keep up with all the scientific literature, here's what's happened, here's what you need to know. There are multiple sessions like that. And I think it's always a focus of audiologists that we get continuing education in that area, and that we know what is coming up. More on the side that's not technological, though, I think it'll be the issues that we've already discussed here. I mean, OTC has been a hot topic and continues to be a hot topic. I think that the profession itself has calmed down a little bit on the OTC. I think many audiologists saw the OTC legislation as something that was going to maybe replace them or kind of take over audiology. I think now audiologists are embracing OTC. We certainly, as a company, encourage audiologists to embrace OTC technology, have it in your practice, be able to fit it, be able to talk about it, be able to show your patients what the OTC technology is, and be able to compare it to prescriptive hearing aids or the hearing aids that we fit all of the time. So that will continue for sure to be a hot topic. The topic I talked about the shortage of audiologists in the United States will also continue to be a hot topic at AAA this year.
Aprovechando su comentario sobre el OTC, quería explicarle un poco la perspectiva que tenemos en Europa. En Europa se está produciendo una disociación, o se habla sobre una disociación entre el producto, los hearing aids, y el servicio, es decir, los estudios y el servicio postventa, dentro de las clínicas audiológicas. En general, la percepción de los audiólogos europeos es que nos estamos moviendo hacia una hiperespecialización. ¿Cómo ven esto los audiólogos americanos? ¿Cuál es la perspectiva acerca de esta hiperespecialización que tienen los audiólogos aquí en Estados Unidos?
Yeah, it's a good question. And since we're only about 6 months into the OTC experience in the US, it's hard to see what it will really do, maybe within the next 5 years. The first 6 months tells us that, I think it's telling us that people need help. And so, there are different models of the OTC experience. You can you can buy one online, and you can actually have a telehealth kind of visit. So, you can have the hearing aid shipped to you, but then you can still talk to a hearing healthcare professional about how to fit it. And I think, we're opening up jobs where audiologists are taking, telehealth visits. I think that, I've learned from a friend who works at another manufacturer of OTC products that they're finding out the exact same thing, that the products themselves, everybody needs help setting them up. And I guess everybody is a pretty big term, but they're finding that the vast majority of people who are successful with over-the-counter hearing aids are having some level of professional support along the way. And I think that's what we're finding everywhere. People want help. These are elderly people. They're not as technologically inclined, and they want some help. And so far in the United States, it hasn't been some sort of hyper specialization. It's been, go ahead and embrace the technology. Certainly there are offices that are pricing out the hearing aids separate from the audiological services, and really valuing the services that the audiologist will provide, but it hasn't caused any kind of hyper specialization, no more so than is already there today. Most people who own a private practice, really hearing aids is what they do, and then hospital audiologists do, maybe a little wider scope of practice. So far, we're not seeing that kind of hyper specialization in the U.S. Maybe we will, but we aren't seeing it yet.
Hablemos ahora también sobre algunos consejos para los jóvenes audiólogos, los audiólogos que están comenzando ahora. Teniendo en cuenta su gran experiencia y su gran perspectiva sobre la audiología en estos años de trabajo que lleva usted desarrollados, si pudiéramos aconsejarle a estos jóvenes audiólogos junior, acerca de una rama de la audiología, ¿en cuál cree usted que deberían pensar? ¿Cuál le aconsejaría usted que va a tener un mayor desarrollo en sus carreras que comienzan ahora como audiólogos jóvenes?
Yeah, this is an incredibly wonderful field. And, like I've said, young audiologists, young people in school have so much opportunity. I always say in the US, if you want to change jobs, if you lose your job, audiology is, you can have a job tomorrow. You can move around. There is job security in audiology, and there are many different ways that you can go in audiology. You can do what I do and work only in hearing aids, but there is much broader jobs in audiology. So, I do still teach college students in audiology, and I think it's a fantastic profession. I'm in the profession because, I wanted to help people hear. There's just no doubt that's how I got into it. I worked as a young high school kid in an office where hearing was being tested, and I just thought, this is what I want to do. It's just kind of my passion. And I don't think that's changed. I think we're in an industry today where we can help people hear in almost any environment in which they go into today, and we can continue to do better. So it's a very rewarding job, and I encourage young audiologists to embrace the profession, because they sure have picked something that is that's going to grow and help people as they go through their career.
Durante este viaje a Estados Unidos, en el que estamos visitando diversas ciudades y el que terminará en la ciudad de Seattle, estamos observando muchas diferencias entre la audiología en Europa y la audiología en the US, ¿vale? Desde la perspectiva de los americanos audiólogos americanos, ¿cómo nos ven ustedes a nosotros? Es decir, ¿qué perspectiva, qué visión tienen ustedes de nosotros?
Yeah, I can speak from how I see, European audiologists. I don't know that I don't know that it's a whole lot different. When I am talking to audiologists in the US and talking to audiologists in Europe, they're interested in the same kinds of things. And again, hearing aids is what I do, but I was speaking this morning just to some German audiologists, and they have the exact same questions that the American audiologists have. They want to know how the technology works. They want to, in particular, they want to know, you know, really what are the end user benefits? How do we know those benefits are there? How can they test the hearing aids to make sure that the benefits are there? So, I see, the professions are very different in terms of, how the education might come about, but in the end, we all end in the same place, and that is just trying to help people hear. And the questions that I get, and the same kinds of evidence that an audiologist wants in the U.S. is the same evidence that they want anywhere in Europe. So I don't see it as terribly different, and I would think that's probably the same. I think you have challenges that we don't have in the United States in terms of different healthcare. Some countries provide one hearing aid from a government healthcare. We don't have any of that in the United States, really. There are some insurances that are starting to cover hearing aids in the U.S., but we really don't have, coverage of, hearing aids from a government perspective. So I think, you have issues that are different than ours. In terms of hearing aids, we're selling hearing aids. It's something that people are paying for out of their own pockets for the most part, which might be a little bit different in Europe. So I think the models are different, and some of the challenges that we're up against are different. But I would say from just professional audiologist to professional audiologist, I don't think that it's very different.
Como hemos comentado anteriormente, el manejo del concepto del OTC va a ser uno de los desafíos más importantes en los próximos años en audiología. ¿Cómo propone GN el acercarse al manejo de este concepto? ¿Qué es lo que podría usted aconsejarle a los profesionales de la audición que deben de adaptarse a este cambio en la forma de trabajar, desde el sistema que antes ellos tenían tradicionalmente hasta este nuevo sistema con el cambio y la aprobación de nuevas regulaciones, nuevas normas y nuevas leyes?
I think at GN, we are embracing over-the-counter hearing aids. We think that it is a population, and I don't think we know that this is a population that is not being served today. These are what we would call pre-users. They're people who are not going to get a hearing aid on their own today, but they are a very important population to serve. And I think, you have to look at hearing and overall health. And we know that there is a correlation between, hearing loss and cognitive decline. And there's research almost every day coming out on this issue. And what we know, and we're starting to see more and more studies that show that amplification early on in your hearing loss journey can help, ward off cognitive decline or keep it from happening altogether. And I think we'll see more and more studies on that. And I think these pre-users that would go and get a hearing aid that is situational, something for a noisy environment or something where, they can use it in the situations in which they have problems, will be beneficial to them and their overall health. So, these are patients that we're not seeing in offices today. Even though we have seen, we call it in the U.S. the river of molasses is kind of how we call it, and it's this 7-year journey that people take to knowing they have a hearing loss, to actually doing something about their hearing loss, and that's declining now. I mean, I shouldn't say the word declining, but it's a shorter period now. We're down to about maybe 4 years before people do something about it. But what happens, in your overall health when you do nothing about your hearing loss? So we completely embrace it. We want early users to get hearing aids. And we, I think in terms of me personally and even the company, we're starting to see that, they will need support. Our current customers, really, we would like them to carry over-the-counter hearing aids in their offices so that they can be there to support patients, and that patients have a place to go when they need more than just what an over-the-counter hearing aid can offer them.
Hablemos también sobre el tiempo, la velocidad de evolución de los OTC. Algunos compañeros audiólogos piensan que el cambio en el mercado de los OTC, será lento y gradual, progresivo. Sin embargo, otros predicen un cambio radical y muy rápido, un cambio muy rápido. ¿Cómo lo ve usted? ¿Usted piensa que va a ser algo que debemos pensar en un periodo de años, 1 o 2 años, en periodo de quinquenios, 5 años, por ejemplo, o en décadas?
I don't think there's a rapid change. I absolutely think this is a very slow change to over-the-counter. I think we think that about 50% of what we called the PSAP market in the United States, which was these personal sound amplifiers that were a lot like over-the-counter hearing aids. We think, the PSAP market will go to OTC probably quickly. But that's not, that's not the market we're going for here. That PSAP market was just a teeny tiny percentage. So I think what we're trying to do is get more and more people embracing amplification earlier. And I think we'll do that, but this has not been, from what I can see, a radical change at all. I mean, it's certainly, from October to now, we're not seeing people, running out to get OTC hearing aids, and we're not really seeing a lot of change in terms of a general audiological practice today. So I think this is it's going to be a very slow change. I already mentioned that there are so many over-the-counter products on the market today that it's confusing to a consumer, and I think many of these consumers want professional help. And so, we're just not seeing maybe the change that people were, really concerned about in terms as an audiologist or in the audiology field. So, I think you're going to see something happen, 5 years from now, we'll talk about where we are. But I think there's room for everything. There's going to be the over-the-counter market. There's going to be a prescriptive market, and there's going to be professionals helping in both of those markets.
Muy bien. Esta pregunta que viene ahora es muy similar a una pregunta que hemos hecho antes, en la que hemos hablado acerca del presente del mercado americano de audiología. Pero en esta ocasión le quería preguntar acerca del presente bajo su visión. ¿Cómo usted ve el presente de la audiología americana?
Yeah, how do I see the present of audiology right now? I think I probably have answered that question in a couple of ways now. The audiology from a U.S. perspective is a profession that continues to grow. We need more audiologists, good technology coming in. Those are all the things that I see in the present today. And as we look out into the future, we will only see better and better technology. One thing I would mention, I think there's been, from a hearing aid perspective, I think there's been some years of maybe just incremental improvements in hearing aid. We every once in a while will see these huge jumps in improvements in hearing aids, and then other hearing aids will be, incremental improvements. I think we're set up as we move forward from a hearing aid perspective to see more and more large, big changes in hearing aids with technology. It isn't just, chat GTP and things like that. I think we just see a lot of things on the horizon that could be the big breakthroughs that we've been looking for, especially in hearing and noise, environmental classification. We also see, a big push toward things that maybe aren't as related to health. You see hearing aids today that count your steps and can tell if you're falling, and you have, overall health in there. I think our perspective at GN is that we want to focus on the things that are more related to hearing, where overall health is concerned. So things like cognitive decline. But I think you'll see more and more of that in the industry too, where technologies are kind of merging and can all be done, with a hearing aid at that time. So, I'm pretty passionate about the hearing aid side of it, and I see many big things still to come, where we can help people hear, more and more over the next 5 or 10 years.
En otra pregunta anterior hemos hablado también acerca del futuro, pero hablemos del futuro en long term, a muy largo plazo, 20 años, ¿vale? ¿Cómo ve usted la evolución de la audiología, pero a muy largo plazo, esos próximos 20 años?
Yeah, that's awfully hard to predict, 20 years out, but you can certainly look even closer. I mean, some of the issues today, like let's just take batteries, for example. We're moving to rechargeable, but rechargeable batteries are fairly large. So when you're looking at like your custom rechargeables right now, so we love our custom rechargeable products, but I think all of us would like them to be smaller. And so you're going to look out into battery technology over the years, getting rechargeable batteries that are going to be smaller, that are going to last longer. One of the interesting issues that's happening right now is in Europe, where the EU is talking about the need to have rechargeable batteries that can be changed by the user. And so we're having to look into, how are we going to be able to do rechargeable in a different way? Today we have them in a completely closed case that would not be user changeable. You see changes in those kind of technologies. So, smaller batteries, smaller instruments, more invisible because components continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think we'll see, smaller hearing aids and more invisible things, more and more custom products you'll see, I think. And the smaller they get, the less occlusive that they'll be over time. Really hard to predict what happens 20 years out. I mean, 20 years out, we might have a cure for hearing loss. Who knows? You just don't know if that would happen. But I think if you can look back over the last 30 years as any indication of what'll happen in 20 years, it will continue to be better sound quality, miniaturization, better hearing and noise, more of the ability to kind of merge overall health and hearing aids together. Those are the things that you can see. I certainly won't be working in this field 20 years from now, but I hope we'll be doing even better to help people hear that.
Lo que quisiéramos es transmitirle nuestro agradecimiento por los minutos que nos ha dedicado para esta conexión en directo para poder hablar con ustedes sobre la audiología. Le damos las gracias y para nosotros ha sido una entrevista muy interesante y muy importante.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.